Hey everyone, welcome to this bonus Q&A session. We're here with Chappale Burton, author of Healing Your Child and Recovery Workbook. Welcome, Chappale. It's an honor and privilege to have you here.
Thanks, G. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you.
Cool, man. So let's get right into this because people are waiting to hear about this. But I have your book right here, and I've listened to
Nice.
the audiobook, which is really great. So one thing that I want to ask you is, did you ever struggle? Because I'm also a voice actor, right?
Hmm.
And we have this thing of imposter syndrome, and it happens with everybody, I believe. But did you ever struggle with any self doubt or imposter syndrome while creating this book?
Wow, you come again with the great questions, Giuseppe. I appreciate that. So let me break it down like this. Definitely, yes. Okay, that's the first thing, but maybe not in the way you might expect. So, for example, when I wrote my first book, as you know, this is my third book. When I wrote my first book, the imposter syndrome that I dealt with then was actually with the actual writing of the book because I had a low self esteem when it actually came to writing because of whatever I'd been through in school or whatever the case may be. I just wasn't confident about my writing ability. But I've written three books now. So that actually went away after the first book. But in this particular case, the challenge I had was actually recording the Audible. That was really, really, really tough for me. I mean, talking about self doubt. And what I'll explain to you is this: many people see me, I'm a motivational speaker, I speak, I coach. But what a lot of people don't know is I have a slight form of dyslexia when it comes to reading. So whenever I have to read something, it's very tough for me to do. I have to, whenever I do my speeches, I don't ever read speeches. I always do them from bullet points. If I have to read something, I practice, 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 study, study, study. I almost have to memorize it whenever it comes to me reading something because reading is very challenging for me. And my wife will tell you, with all my books, I don't just buy the books, I buy the books and the Audible so that I can read and listen at the same time because it increases my reading speed. So there was a lot of self doubt when it came to recording the Audible because I knew that I had to come in, I had to read it, and I had to do my best to sound natural. And it was very challenging because I don't see myself as the best reader. And yet I faced my fears. And as you very well know, I did it anyway. So did I feel self-doubt about it? I did. Did I face the imposter syndrome? I did. Did I do it anyway? Did I face the fear and do it anyway? As you clearly know, I did. So thanks for that great question.
Oh yeah, no, and I totally understand that whole imposter syndrome or the self doubt because I mean, even when I'm doing auditions, it's like, oh, what did I do? Did I do it right? Did I not? And when I do get hired for the part, it's like, oh wow. Well, but then you see these other great actors that are in the room or on the being part of the cast, and it's like, whoa, am I worthy of being here? I
Do I
mean,
belong here?
do I
Right.
belong here? Yeah,
Exactly.
it's kind of like you get that thing, but then you got to go back and step back and say, look, I already did the audition. They already said they wanted me. That means regardless of, I'm here and I'm worthy.
I'm supposed to be here, right?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be here. They
Yeah.
hired me for this.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's kind of like that comes to the same thing. You wrote this book. You did the audiobook for this and and it's that's like half the battle, in the old
Yeah.
GI Joes, like knowing is half the battle, the other half is actually doing it.
Yeah, it is. It
so
is. It
so that's
is.
awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next question in terms of, when you wrote this book, what was and going through the whole process of everything, what was the hardest part of your inner child healing, and how did you overcome that?
So part of the thing I actually expressed in the book, one of the most challenging parts for me to deal with during this process was forgiving the rapist. I talked about that. That was very challenging for me to deal with, and I expressed in the book how I how I dealt with that. So I'm going to share another challenge that I had when going through this process of healing. And it was so when I saw my stepfather get murdered in broad daylight on the playground, it was almost kind of like something you would see in a movie. It really was, because literally it was 15 feet away from me. And when he was shot right at center mass and literally right in the heart. And when he fell down, his heart was still pumping, so the blood was spurting out like in the movies, and literally you could see it, like you could see the heart pumping, because it would go up, and then it was less, and then less and less and less until there was no more blood to come out. So I, as a child, I I witnessed this, and the challenging part for me was I had to get over the guilt that I felt from the feeling that I felt when I saw him murdered, because I was abused, I was tortured by him. And Giuseppe, my first feeling was of relief when he died. And I remember looking for some tears in my I felt no tears. I felt no sadness when I saw him get killed. I literally felt relieved, because I knew that he wouldn't abuse me anymore. I knew he wouldn't abuse my mother anymore, because my mother was in a domestic violence situation as well. So that was tough. That was tough, because as I got older, and I was dealing with the guilt of feeling no remorse. I had to really, really work with that. And the way I overcame that was, first of all, was acceptance. That was the first thing. I just accepted. It took some time, and some work, but
Yeah.
it was accepting that that was my young mind's way of, and that was what I felt at the time. I felt a sense of freedom, and I kind of express that also in the book when I say, how does one feel when, you know, you see your parents that have been abusing you murdered? It's a real mind jam, okay? So the first thing was acceptance. I accepted that that was what I felt. And then the second thing was, which helped with the healing, was actually forgiving my stepfather for the things and finding ways to see things from his perspective as much as I could, empathizing really. And then the third thing was actually forgiving myself. This is what I felt, this is what it was. Okay, I can forgive myself, and there's no need for me to feel guilty. But that was something that it took me a while to work through, because I felt a lot of guilt over not feeling remorse of seeing someone murdered, because this was still someone else's father. This was still someone else's son, cousin, brother, uncle. This is
Hmm.
still a person that a lot of other people are going to be sad about, that was killed at this point. But they weren't living in my life through my perspective. And I had to just acknowledge that's how I felt, forgive him, forgive myself, and get on with my life. So that was challenging, but that's the best explanation I can share on that one.
Yeah, because I mean, after reading your book and going through listening to the audiobook with your voice, it was, you know, for a child to have to go through what you went through with the rape and witnessing the murders of your parents. It's just, I mean, you wouldn't wish that on anybody. And for you to
Right.
have to go through that and still, live to tell the story. I mean, it's only inspirational to for others to know that, hey, you may be having it pretty rough right now, but check out this brother over here who what he went through, and he's here to tell you that it's okay, but you need to face any childhood trauma that is causing you to not be your greater self in life, you know
100%.
and so with when you look back, what's like one thing that you wish your younger self knew that would have made that healing a bit easier?
That's a fantastic, fantastic follow up question. So, And I have a real easy answer to that one, Giuseppe. I, I wish I would have known the truth. I wish I would have known the truth, and I'll elaborate a little bit on that. So, and I talk about this a little bit in the book, but now I can say, of course, people, anyone who's clear can see that it was me. But when my parents were killed, and gosh, I remember this as clear as day. I was sitting in the back of the receiving car. It was like a limousine, so it was a big car where people could come in the car. I was sitting in the car, and it was like a receiving, so people were coming in and offering their condolences, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot tell you how many people told me at the time that I needed to be strong, that I needed to, be the man of the house now to, take care of my younger sisters. Dude, I was 8 years old, man. I was 8 years old. I didn't even know how to take care of myself. What I needed to hear at that time. I mean, this is me doing the inner child work, and what I needed to hear was that I was going to be in pain for a while. That this was going to hurt. This is painful, and that one day I would feel better. The pain's going to be there, but I would feel better. That I am going to be okay. That's what I needed to hear, the truth. That yes, your parents were killed. You know that. And it's going to hurt for a while. It's going to hurt for some time, but it will get better with time. And you're going to be okay. I needed the truth. I didn't need to be told that I should be responsible for my siblings when I wasn't even responsible for myself. I needed to mourn. I needed therapy. I needed to be told it was okay to cry. I needed the truth.
Right.
That's what I
Yeah.
needed. So thanks for that great question.
Yeah. So, one thing that I didn't see in the book, but after your parents were killed, where were you living at the time? Were your sisters and you in one?
Oh yeah, that wasn't in. I explained that in another book. So I was really fortunate that my maternal grandmother, who was at that time living in Jamestown, New York, she didn't want us to be taken by the state. She didn't want us to be separated. So she came from Jamestown to Chicago, and she picked the three of us up. When I say the three of us, there was four initially because my stepsister, which was my stepfather's daughter, she went with her paternal grandmother, and then my grandmother took me and my two sisters, and she took us back to Jamestown and saved our. She's my savior. She saved our lives. I'm so grateful for her. God bless her soul. But she was the person who came, got us, took us, raised us, put us in a nurturing household. I got into a place where, I started to get hugs and, it's a loving environment, which is what I desperately needed at that time. And she is the person who provided the space and the place for me to begin healing.
Well, and that's something that many people don't actually get to witness or get to have after a tragedy in their life, in a sense. So that is such a blessing that in disguise that happened to you and your sisters at the time when you witnessed this, and to have that love and that nurturing, it was like a whole 180-degree turn from your life prior,
100%.
that it's like almost like you're born again at that portion and say, okay, here's my new life.
Very
It,
well said. It
yeah.
was exactly that. It was exactly that. It was the challenge for me. And I expressed that in the book, is my life initially, right after this happened, because I had been through a lot in a very short period of time. Like I said, being abducted and raped at gunpoint, and then, seeing my parents murdered on broad daylight right in front of me. I didn't believe my life was real at one point in time. For some time, literally after my grandmother came and took us, I just couldn't believe that this had all happened. And so my life was a bit surreal for some period of time, and I wasn't processing anything. I was just kind of literally just going through the motions. And yet I still needed that. I needed that space and that time to actually come back to earth to begin healing, which my grandmother, God bless her, provided.
Wow, yeah, that is something to that's a movie in itself. I mean, your life, it is like something. many people don't witness or experience in their life whole
Don't
in
wish it
their
on anyone,
lifetime, so
brother.
they're not going to know what's going on,
Yeah,
right? It's like
yeah.
the same thing, like at the end of the day, you might meet somebody and they might be rude to you, or really pissed off or whatever it might be, but at the end of the day, you really don't know what they're going through, to why they're acting that way. So to judge them on that particular meeting, it doesn't really give that encounter justice in a way. And for you to go through that life and have that turnaround, that's something a lot of people don't get to experience. When you're in that booth, in that studio, just have fun. Bring in
Yeah,
your inner child, bring them out, and like you were 5-year-old in a playground.
yeah.
And that's basically in life, really, just bring out that
100%.
inner child, because that inner child, when it comes to when we become adults and we start getting responsibility, we kind of lose that inner child and that joy that comes with being that child. Now with you, I would say that started around 8 at the time. After that, it's like you had a whole new restart. And now you're a big 55-year-old kid that enjoys life. and,
So much, so much, so much. And I'm really, I want to say, man, I'm so blessed and grateful to have a loving partner like my wife has really, oh my God, she's been such a wonderful part of the healing, because I have real unconditional love from my wife. And I have two wonderful children, which I'm so grateful to, I'm blessed to be able to share love with. And and actually be this big kid, and so it's a great place to be. I went through a lot to get here, but I'm grateful, I'm blessed at this point, man.
that's awesome. Yeah. And yeah, with your wife and kids, and for you, there's always something when um many spouses, whether it's a wife or a husband, that don't have that partner that shares in the joy, or shares in the aspirations of like your dreams.
Mm,
And they don't have that reciprocal relationship where they have that support.
yeah,
It makes life a lot more difficult. So when you do have a loving wife that supports you, and I don't mean support financially, I mean support is in your goals and
oh yeah,
your dreams, and then you have the children that you get to both raise together.
yeah,
I mean,
man.
that's like icing on the cake.
It is, brother. And I know you have it too, so
Yeah, yeah,
we have that in common, which is a wonderful place to be, man. It's a
yeah.
wonderful
And
place to
it's
be.
it's great, and it's interesting because coming from two walks of life,
Hmm.
it shows that it really, you get to create your stars and change your stars, right? As in I love the movie Knight's Tale, and I watch it all the time, but that's what it says. You get to change your stars. And having coming from two walks of life, but still being able to share a commonality with having a loving family, loving wife, and loving children. um it just it shows how we are united in a higher self than just physical here.
Hmm.
It's like we can change ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh, definitely.
but but it does go with some other things that happen that you most likely do on a daily basis. So are there any habits or routines that you do on a daily that to nurture your inner child?
Yeah, man. So here's the thing: the healing doesn't stop. It
Mm,
doesn't. It's an ongoing process. You get to a certain place where you're emotionally stable, and yet if you stop doing the things that got you there, then you may backslide. Okay,
mm,
so I'm regularly, like every day, and I love it because my wife, 4 in the morning, brother, every single, actually 3:55 a.m. Seriously, every single morning, including this morning on vacation. It doesn't matter. I'm up. I do my meditations.
mm,
Meditations. I do my journaling. So this stuff that I'm talking about in the book, like it's not just talk. It's not just chatter. These are practices that I practice and that I know work, but they only work if you work them. I do my affirmation. I used to do a whole bunch of affirmations. I don't do a whole bunch of affirmations anymore, but there's one that I still do on a daily basis because it's the one that fills me the most is thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you. And that's me talking to myself, you know. And then the other routine, and I won't even, routine or habit, but something that's very healing for me, and I'll share it, is that I tell my kids I love them as much as I can. And I say like 5 to 10 times a day. Now, that's healing for me. It's healing for my inner child as well. I didn't get that. And I want to make sure that my children, they know, if they don't know anything else, they know their dad loves them. They know it.
Yeah.
They know it. I tell them several times a day. I make sure that they don't leave the house without them saying or me saying or coming in. They know. And again, so it's a habit and it's a routine, but it's a natural way of healing. And I'm feeding them and pouring into them as well by just giving them the love, and really expressing my love for my children. And that again, that helps to heal my inner child as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you know I did grow up in a it was a strict Italian family,
Hmm.
and but we didn't really say I love you much. We just knew that we loved each other, and it was shown by, I don't know, my mom cooking dinner, or
Yeah, yeah.
my dad working late. But it we never really said it. It wasn't until I met my wife where we were I started, and it was weird at first, but it was, I started saying I love you to even guy friends, and say, and then after a while, it became, I don't know, you want to call it a bromance stuff or whatever,
Yeah, it's all good. Love is
but
love, man.
but but then as it started going on, we also do say I love you to our children, and before I drop them off at school or whatnot, before we leave the house, and and we are the same way, where we want our children to know that they're loved. And I never saw it as a healing an inner child version, where me saying it to my children is also, it's also satisfying my soul.
Of course
And,
it is.
and
Yes.
so I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of new. I'm like, okay, yeah, and
Yeah,
it
it's
does. Go ahead.
it works. It does. It's really interesting that you say that because it was the reverse in our situation where, and I hope my wife is okay with me sharing this, but too late. It's being shared now. But my wife, she was said something similar to you. Her love and her family was shown through, like you said, there was food on the table, there was clothes on the back, there was,
Yeah,
and love is a verb, by the way. Love is a verb, it is shown by the action. So, that's a really, you know, important distinction that you can, you show love by the actions that you do. And yet my wife, she said, and I feel really good about that. She said, I was able to bring another level of love into her family because then she started to say I love you a lot more to her family. And it's a wonderful thing that it's become contagious in a positive way because now, her and her sister, when they get off the phone, they say I love you. And her and her family, they say it a lot more now. Not that they weren't a loving family, that's not what I'm saying. Again, it was
right.
kind of like your family. She comes from a
Yeah,
West Indian family, and their love was shown more than spoken. And so for us and our family, we just do both. We show the
yeah.
love and we put the food on the table, put the clothes on your back, and we tell you we love you. So
And it's funny. That's a commonality that we both have now, and I do, ever since, with my wife saying it, and then me picking up that trait, it has changed the dynamics of my own family with my parents and my brother, where we do say I love you on top of showing the I love you
yeah,
portion.
spread the love,
So
man. Why not?
yeah, and I'm like,
Spread the
wow, this
love,
is,
man.
and if everyone can just get to that and not feel that uncomfortableness, this world is healed, right?
Yeah.
And that's basically what we're here
Love
for.
is the key, man. It really
Love is the key.
is.
We're here to
It
spread
really
love,
is.
you
It
know. And
is.
it's like, wow, it's
100%.
like and it comes in all sorts of ways, right?
It
Even
does.
just a little gesture. But even with that, there comes times when old wounds resurface. So how do you handle that?
So that's they do, and not only for me, because I'm in this work, they're resurfacing all the time. Like because I'm in this work. So for example, you heard the audio because you're producing it. You heard the part where I know there's a part when I'm talking about the rape situation where I don't have to, but there's a part of me that sees that happening, and it resurfaced right there in the studio booth, right there.
Yeah.
And what do? I do the same thing that I talk about. I even write it in the book. The first thing is breathe. I breathe first, I breathe. That breathing brings me back. That spirit brings me back. Okay, breathe in, breathe out. And then the grounding stuff that I talk about. I check my body. Like, okay, I'm okay. I'm alive. Everything's fine. I do a scan of my body. So those are the first two immediate things. And again, you'll see in the book, I even write in the book, in the written version, there are times when I'm talking and something comes up and I even write in there, breathe. So that's my number one thing
Yes.
first is the breathing to get control of my breath, because then I can take control of myself. I control my breath, then I can control my thoughts. Okay. So now I get control of my breath. I'm aware of my body. So then once I've done that, then I can take control of my thoughts. And then for me, my number one go to usually is gratitude, brother. Like, no matter what, gratitude brings me right back, or if gratitude is not appropriate at that time, which it usually is, I might ask myself this question: okay, what's good about this situation? What's good about this situation? And so this wound is resurfaced. What's good about this? It gives me a time, it gives me another chance to practice these tools of healing. That's what's
Mhm.
good about it. It gives me another chance to practice my resilience. That's what's good about it. It gives me another chance to practice and go deeper and deeper in my healing. That's what's good about it. So
Mhm.
I'm just telling you because it happens. It still happens. This healing, again, as I said, why I do these ongoing rituals and routines and meditations and journaling, because this is, for me, based on what I've been through, I can see it's a lifelong process. This doesn't stop. And yet I get better and better the more I practice, the more I do these particular things. And then I got this toolbox that anyone who buys the book has. There's a toolbox of many things that you can use. Find out what works for you, and then when the time comes, pull something out from your toolbox and use it. You might find yourself using the same thing over and over, which I do. I got, again, my go-tos, and I use pretty much the same thing all the time now because that works for me. Breathing, grounding, affirmations, gratitude, and asking myself my question: okay, what's good about this?
Mhm.
So that's what I do, and I do it pretty much every time. And stuff comes up all the time. I just deal
Wow.
with it.
That's
Yeah, man.
that's yeah. No, that's really good. And I know we come in and we do we have you know depending on how old you are, we have our beliefs that and expectations that we grow up with, that we are programmed with for decades. And you know what role does something like your beliefs and expectations play in the healing process?
An amazing, a huge role. They play a huge role. So our beliefs, gosh, our beliefs are so powerful. I'll give you a quote, and I'm gonna misquote it, or I'm gonna do my best to quote this properly, but I believe it was Henry Ford, and he said something along the lines of, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right.
Yes, that's Henry
Is that,
Ford.
isn't that close,
Yep.
something along those lines?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I take that same approach to healing. I take that same approach to healing. And so when it comes to healing, the first thing is, and I say this in the book, awareness.
Hmm.
First, you need to be aware of what your beliefs are surrounding your healing. You know, do you believe you have the capacity to heal yourself? That's the first First step. Now, once you come to whatever your beliefs are, positive or negative, if you become to your awareness, you become aware of your beliefs and you see that you have limiting beliefs surrounding your healing, then what we need to do then is we need to swap them out.
Right.
Excuse me. We need to swap out those limiting beliefs for empowering beliefs. I share many ways to do that in the book. There's cognitive restructuring. There's, again, having a list of things that you're grateful for that you can, flip in, bring in when some of these limiting beliefs come in. And then there's just the affirmations, basically flipping the affirmations on their head. So if you have a negative belief about your healing, then you flip it into a positive affirmation. That's what you do. That's one way to do it. That's one way to do it.
Right.
Expectations. We usually live up to our expectations or live down to them, whichever way they're going. Okay. And again, this is not just in healing. This is in life. I tell you, my wife, it's a wonderful thing. And it really, really works. I love seeing it. And I do it too, but my wife is a pro at this. She's a pro at this when it comes to, we call it parking karma. Parking karma.
Parking karma. Yeah.
Parking karma. And what do I mean by that? So there's so many times people are driving around looking for no place to park.
Mm-hmm. No
They're driving around looking for no place to park. If you're driving around looking for no place to park, you're expecting to find no place to park, then what are you going to find? No place to park. But my wife, let me just share this. My wife, she's brilliant with this because she always knows there's going to be a place to park. She knows it. And it happened recently. I hope I didn't just tell this story the last time you interviewed me, because I tell this story a lot because she's so good at it. We were going to my son had a band performance, and we were pulling up at a time where the parking lot was totally full. And I'm like, listen, I'll just pull up and I'll just drop you off and then I'll find a place to park. I will find a place. So I'm going to find a place. I wasn't looking for no place. And my wife says, as soon as you pull up keep going to the front. As soon as you pull up, there's going to be a spot for us. That was her expectation. And then I jump on the bandwagon. I'm like, okay, all right, well, let's do it. Because she does it all the time. But this last time, bro, it was almost unbelievable. We pull up, and this is a game, a football game. My son's in the band. We pull up. And this is so we want to pull up because it's we want to see halftime. He does the halftime show. So we weren't even there to watch the game. We're there to watch the band. I'm going in. I'm like, the game's already started. People are already here. This is what I'm thinking. So I had a negative expectation at first, but then my wife switched it for me. She says, no, just go all the way to the front. There'll be a place for us. I said, okay. And you're usually right. We pull up. As soon as we get there, man, there's someone backing out, and we pull right in and go right in. That was expectation. Her expectation was and her expectation affected me. But again, the same thing is real when it comes to healing and when it comes to anything in our lives. So we want to have that expectation that we do have the power to heal, that it will happen. And when we have that expectation, we're going to live up to
it. Funny. We have something very similar too. We call it Parkinator.
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 Cool. I love that.
And we'll say, dude, you're such
Turn on the Parkinator.
Yeah, there you go. So we get it right in and boom, find the parking right up front, right where we want it. Or you say, you know what? I want to walk today because I want to get some steps in. Boom. Still find parking.
Exactly.
A little further, but I still find the parking where I want it to be.
Exactly. I like how you put that.
So that's kind of
on that level too. I just want to say, and that for me, that's why the parking karma thing isn't a big deal for me, because we've had these conversations. I normally like to park far, far away, just as you said, because I like to get my steps in. So I normally don't choose to park close, but every now and again there's a time when it might be necessary, and that was one of those times. So that's a great story, man. The Parkinator.
Cool. And in your book you talk about affirmations, right? And we're real big with affirmations too in my family. And what do you find as the most effective way to use affirmations?
Okay, great. So the most effective way that I've found to use affirmations is use affirmations like assumptions. Okay. When you assume something, you know it's true. When you assume something, you know it's true. When you assume something, you're certain that it's true.
Yeah.
You're not guessing. So with affirmations, we want to use affirmations almost as assumptions. We're not saying an affirmation wishing that it's something that's going to come. We're saying the affirmations with the feelings and the emotions that we already have it. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
affirmation is not a wish. An
So,
affirmation is a knowing. It's a projection. Actually, here you go. Here's a great way to say it. When you say your affirmations, you want to say them from the place that you already have manifested them. You want to project yourself to the future that you have that, whatever you're manifesting, whatever you want, whatever you're affirming, whatever you want to manifest, you want to live from that place.
mm-hmm.
You want to live from the emotions and the feelings of the wish fulfilled. So here you go. We're vibrations. It's all energy. This whole planet, everything is all energy. And I'm talking from science. Everything vibrates at a
Yeah.
certain level. Everything does. So if everything vibrates at a certain level, then where you want to go with your affirmations is you want to vibrate at the level of the wish fulfilled. You want to vibrate of the thing, of the healing that you want. So one of the things I had trouble with, and I talk about a lot, was, not loving myself, not knowing the love and not feeling the love.
Mm-hmm.
And it was challenging for me. And I remember, he's saying, okay, you got to do the affirmations that you love yourself, you love yourself, you love yourself. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't. But I don't, you know? And so then I'm like, okay, but how could I? How could I? How could I? The way I can is this. Well, what would I feel like if I did love myself?
Mm-hmm.
What would I feel like if I did love myself? Or seeing someone else and then, what is that like? Okay, they look like they're in love. What does that feel like? And then tap into those feelings. And then when you tap into those feelings, you say your affirmations. And I shouldn't even say, man, because you don't want to just say them. You want
Right.
to feel them. You want to emote them. You want them to be as though you have it. I can't express that enough. It's interesting because I caught myself. I do my journaling, and I caught myself recently. So I had this other affirmation that I was saying, and then I was doing my journaling, and I said, "Wow, Chappelle, here it is. You're not practicing what you preach." Every time, we have to remind ourselves. I was like, "You've been saying this affirmation, thinking it's going to work, and you've just been saying it. You haven't been feeling it. You got to feel it, man." So I'm still coaching myself right now to this day, do the same stuff. But the best way and the most efficient, effective way to use affirmations is through assumption, assuming that you have it and living and saying it from the space of ownership, that this is yours now.
Yeah. The funny thing is, just yesterday, I was actually listening. I believe it's called the law of assumption.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And what you're talking about is and our job, yours and mine and everyone else's, is to have that assumption, put it out into the universe, into the space, and just keep feeling it and keep believing in it. Don't waver for it. Have an unwaveringly belief in it. And when the time's right, it's going to be there. It's not
It
going to be like,
has to.
yeah, it
The
has to.
vibration, the energy. You raise yourself to that vibration by doing it and living from that space.
Right.
You have
And
to.
it has to. And the funny thing is that law of assumption, it never fails. It cannot fail, because once you
It
put it out
can't.
there and you have that belief and you know that that feeling is there, um, it can only bring it to realization, because that's the
It,
reality.
it has to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I love my wife and I. We do all the stuff that we talk, the vision boards. I have a a vision wall, or where I have this stuff that we talk about. We know from experience, because we have so many times from our vision boards, from our winning walls, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is,
Mm-hmm.
that, oh my God, that came. My wife, she pulls it up. Oh my God, I know it works, but it only works if you work it, brother. It
Yeah,
only works
yeah.
if you work it.
And one thing, what a lot of people don't realize is that success is not something that you achieve, which that's what we've been told all our lives,
Right.
but it's something that you express from within. If you
Something that
feel
you live.
successful, yeah,
It's
if you live and feel successful, you're going to be
100%.
successful.
Something that you live, brother. Just that
Yeah,
you said. It's not something that you go for. It's something that you live now.
yeah. And that's like crazy because, this practice, it is practice. It's something that we get to do on a daily basis, on a moment to moment basis, because at the end of the day, as we put that vibration out into the universe, that vibration is just gonna, it has to come back to us as long as we continue to
Feel it.
feel it.
Feel it. And it's
Exactly.
not, and it's not, you're not wishing for it. Because if you're
No.
wishing for it, that means you don't have it. You're
Yeah.
living as you have it now. That's the thing. You're not coming from a place of depravity. You're not coming a deprivation. You're
Yeah.
not coming from that place because that actually pushes it away. Oh, I wish I had this, and I wish I no, because now you remind yourself that you don't have it.
Yeah.
Do you understand the difference? You're not wishing for these things. You're living as though you have them now. That is the difference. It's a very important distinction that you're living from it now. You're living from it now. So you're not wishing it. So you're enjoying it and you're happy that you have those things. And that's why sometimes you say thank you before you even say the affirmation. Thank you because I know I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're in gratitude.
You're in
And
gratitude.
and it's like you have to be it. You must be it before you can see it. And
You
it's one of
got it.
those where, it's a little rhyme, but it's one of those that, you gotta, if you don't embody that feeling and have that feeling, and that's what even with Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, right?
Mhm.
It's like you his is Think and Grow Rich, but the one thing after that is Feel and Grow Rich, because you can think it, but if you're not feeling it, it's just words, it's empty words. So it's very you know relieving to think that, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna be it, because if I be it, I know it's coming. It's there. It's already here. And
100%.
and the fact that if it that vision, and that's where a lot of people, you know, they're thinking about it, but they're coming into a space of wishing, like you're saying, where they're wishing it, and it's always going to be a wish. It's always going
Yeah.
to be a way,
Yeah.
because that's what they're putting out there. It's like,
100.
okay, so when you say it's just around the corner, it's just around the corner. It's
It's going to
always
stay
going to
around the
be.
corner.
It's going to stay around the corner. It's always going to be there. So it's like, if we just take that back and say, instead of wishing it, just, I'm going to come from a space that I have it already. And this is what it feels like when I already have it. It's going to be here. It's
That's it.
there.
Let me share something with you, man. I love that. Excuse me for 1 second. I'm going to step off this camera for 1 second. So here we go. I'm back. So I love that my sister, I had it. I was close when I was in college and I was getting into this a lot. I was very close, but I didn't have the whole thing. And I created this calling card, and I'll just show it to you. It says, see if you can see that. It says
Positive thoughts.
positive. Can you see that?
Yep.
Positive thoughts cause positive actions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is when I was at 4740 Baum Boulevard in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I used to pass this card out because I was on that mode and I wanted to put that energy out there. And yet I wasn't all the way there, because it's not just the positive thoughts. It's the emotion. So now on the back of this book, it says, let's see if you can see that. This is in the back of one of the
Yep.
journals.
My thoughts,
It
not
says,
my
my thoughts,
circumstance.
not my circumstances, determine how I feel. And how I feel determines what I do.
Mm.
See, that's this again. That's on the back of this. This is one of the journals I created.
Yep.
My thoughts, not my circumstances, determine how I feel, and how I feel determines what I do. You
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
this is the next version up from
From
this.
that.
I was really glad my sister saved this for me, and I was like, oh, I wanted one of those, and she actually made a magnet out of it. So now I keep it right here at my
Oh,
desk.
that's
But
pretty cool.
it's amazing. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because it's on the same point. It's that next level. It's not just thinking about it. Thinking's, that's the start. It's part of the process. It's part of the triangle. But on the triangle, You got them all on there. You got thoughts, mind, emotions, soul, and an action body. You got to do them all. You need them
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. That's the one thing people forget, that action part.
Now that, well, look, man, it's not, you can sit and meditate all day long if you want to, but if you don't get up off your butt and do something, nothing's gonna happen.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So that's cool. I mean, we're about wrapping this up here. So one thing is here's your book. Where can we find this book?
Right now, you can find it on Amazon. Oh, you can also find it on Amazon, and then you can find it on Amazon. As of right now, that is the place to find it right now. I'm going to sooner or later put it up some other places, but you can find it. But the good news is you can find it both on Kindle. You can find it on Audible soon, as soon as
Yep.
this the
Yep.
bonus, this last bit of bonus is here, and you can find it on hardcover and softcover. So any version that you want it, you can find it any way that you want it on Amazon.
Cool. With this is, so what's next in your mission to help others heal and become the best version of themselves?
So thanks for that question. I'm putting together some groups that you'll be able to find, some social media groups. I'm putting together two coaching programs, a kind of a basic program for anybody who's had any trauma issues, and I'm putting together another coaching program that will be for, coaches, healers, therapists, counselors, and the like. So I'm putting that together. And then the final part is, which I'm really excited about, is getting back and doing my YouTube channel. I'm going to put together a YouTube channel right now, and it's something along the lines of Healing Souls Thrive. Healing Souls Thrive. So it's basically going to be me sharing healing information, but not just about healing, but actually healing and thriving and take it to the next level. I may interview people. I haven't put the platform together yet, but those are the things that I'm working on that will be coming out very, very shortly. So you can look for the YouTube channel as well as the social media groups and courses.
Cool. Well, awesome. This has been an honor and a pleasure to get an in-depth um, you know Q&A with you, and it's opened up my eyes. It's actually given me some aha moments, and again, here's your book. You can get on Amazon, Kindle Direct, Audible, and so if you're an auditory person or a visual person, you can get it all. And with that, I want to say thank you very much, much blessings, and I look forward to seeing everything that you create.
Thank you, brother Giuseppe. Peace, love, and blessings to you and everybody out there listening, brother.